The history of warfare is often a story of compromise, of balancing power against weight, and rate of fire against accuracy. By 1941, the German Fallschirmjäger, Hitler's elite paratroopers, were perhaps the finest shock troops in the world, capable of achieving daring, spectacular victories. Their flawless execution of the invasion of Crete, Operation Mercury, showcased their discipline and ferocity. Yet, Crete also exposed a fatal, glaring flaw in their equipment doctrine that demanded an immediate, radical solution. When the Fallschirmjäger jumped, they did not jump armed with their primary weapons. Parachute doctrine dictated that a rifleman would jump carrying only a pistol and hand grenades. His full-sized Mauser rifle, his machine gun, and all his heavier gear were dropped separately in metal containers, which often landed far from the paratrooper himself. For those crucial, terrifying minutes after landing, the German paratrooper was severely underarmed, forced to scramble for his supplies while vulnerable to immediate enemy counterattack. The British and Commonwealth defenders on Crete quickly learned to target these unarmed troopers before they could reach their gear, leading to devastating German losses. The official requirement came down from the Luftwaffe, which commanded the paratroopers, separate from the army. Hermann Göring, always keen to project the image of his elite forces as superhuman, demanded a single, revolutionary weapon. This weapon had to be light enough to be carried by a paratrooper during the jump, yet powerful enough to replace the entire array of weapons typically found in a standard infantry squad: the bolt-action rifle, the submachine gun, and the light machine gun. This was not a request for a compromise, it was a demand for perfection. The design that emerged from the Rheinmetall Borsig Company, primarily designed by Louis Stand, was arguably the most ambitious small arms design of the entire war: the Fallschirmjäger WWII or the MG42. The paratrooper's rifle, model 1942. The core challenge was to combine three incompatible characteristics into one weapon: the high-powered 7.92 by 57 mm Mauser rifle round, the same one used in the heavy MG34 and MG42, with the light weight of a submachine gun, and the sustained fire capability of a light machine gun. It was a seemingly impossible mechanical triangle. But the German engineers achieved a spectacular solution. The MG42 was designed with an ingenious, dual-purpose firing system. First, when fired semi-automatically, the bolt operated from a closed position, just like a traditional rifle. This allowed for maximum accuracy for the first, aimed shot, essential for a precise rifleman. Second, when the shooter switched to full automatic fire, the bolt operated from an open position, like a machine gun. This dramatically improved barrel cooling and reduced the risk of cook-offs during rapid, sustained bursts, essential for a support weapon. This dual-mode mechanism was unprecedented, a true mechanical marvel that proved the German engineers were still operating at the absolute cutting edge of firearms design, even as the war turned against them. Beyond the unique firing mechanism, the MG42 was built for the airborne mission. It was lightweight, weighing only around 9.9 pounds, significantly lighter than the American Bar, Browning automatic rifle. Its receiver was machined from steel forgings, giving it a high degree of precision and durability. It featured a straight-line stock design that channeled recoil directly back into the shooter's shoulder, aiding control during automatic fire. But perhaps the most distinctive feature was the magazine placement. Unlike every other rifle of the time, the MG42's magazine was placed horizontally on the left side of the receiver. This placement was deliberate. It allowed the paratrooper to lie low to the ground and fire the weapon from the prone position without the magazine digging into the dirt, a critical tactical necessity for a soldier fighting immediately after landing. The MG42 truly attempted to replace every weapon in the squad. It had a bayonet, folding forward under the barrel. It had a muzzle brake to tame the massive recoil of the full-sized rifle round. And it had an integrated folding bipod, transforming it instantly into a light machine gun. It was a complete fighting system condensed into a single rifle. The promise of the MG42 was immense. The individual paratrooper would no longer be vulnerable. He would be a one-man fire team, capable of suppressing the enemy with automatic fire and engaging targets accurately at rifle range. It was the epitome of the elite soldier concept, a highly trained warrior equipped with technology far superior to that of the common infantryman. However, like so many of Hitler's high-tech obsessions, the FG-42 was expensive, complex, and slow to produce. It was a victim of its own perfection, demanding resources that the collapsing German industry could no longer spare. While the design was brilliant, the transition to mass production proved a costly and often frustrating exercise in wartime engineering. The reality of the battlefield would soon test whether the paratroopers' dream could truly overcome the industrial nightmare of late-war Germany. The initial reception of the FG-42 by the paratroopers who received the first, small batches was rapturous. They understood instantly that this weapon was designed specifically for them, fulfilling the promise that had been brutally denied on the hills of Crete. It was sleek, powerful, and offered a volume of fire previously unheard of for a single man carrying a jumpable rifle. Field reports praised its accuracy in semi-automatic fire and its devastating punch in close-quarters automatic bursts. However, the path from technical prototype to mass-produced frontline weapon was fraught with enormous difficulty. The early production models, known as the first pattern or Type 1, were plagued by manufacturing issues. Their construction relied heavily on expensive, time-consuming milled parts, and they incorporated materials like aluminum alloys to save weight, materials that were becoming critically scarce for Germany's aircraft industry. The resulting complexity led to high costs and slow delivery times. Furthermore, the lightweight, combined with the power of the full-sized 7.92mm rifle round, resulted in vicious recoil when fired fully automatically, making it extremely difficult to control anything beyond a very short burst. The bipod, meant to stabilize automatic fire, was too light and too far forward to fully negate the climb. Engineers at Rheinmetall, desperate to simplify and improve the weapon, soon introduced the second pattern or Type 2-3. They made significant changes, ditching the lightweight alloys for more readily available stamped steel, taking a lesson, perhaps, from the MG42 and the STG-44. They swapped the elegant, slim stock for a heavy wooden or later, stamped steel stock, and moved the bipod back toward the center of the weapon. These changes added weight, increasing the total mass to over 11 pounds, but this compromise was necessary to tame the recoil and reduce manufacturing time. The FG-42, initially conceived as a featherweight miracle, was slowly forced to gain weight to become practically usable. Despite these changes, production numbers remained incredibly low. Throughout the entire war, only an estimated 7,000 to 8,000 FG-42s were ever produced. This minuscule output meant the FG-42 never fulfilled its destiny as the standard Fallschirmjäger weapon. It became, instead, a prized, specialized tool distributed only to veteran units for specific, high-stakes missions. The FG-42's most famous, high-profile use came during a raid that was pure goring spectacle, the rescue of the deposed Italian dictator, Benito Mussolini, in September 1943. Operation Oak, executed by Otto Skorzeny and his paratroopers, was a glider assault on a remote mountain hotel. The paratroopers who landed directly onto the confined, rocky terrain carried the FG-42. In this specific, close quarters, and high-value operation, the weapon was perfect, providing the elite troops with the necessary immediate firepower without the logistical delay of retrieving weapon containers. It was a moment of technical success, proving the rifle's specialized worth, but it was an exception, not the rule. On the wider front, the FG-42 was a brutal surprise for the Allies. American and British troops, when encountering a paratrooper wielding the FG-42, were shocked by the sustained, high-velocity automatic fire emanating from a single man. The rifle's range and power were superior to anything an individual Allied rifleman carried. It was the epitome of the German military's belief in equipping their best troops with the very best technology, regardless of cost. However, its scarcity meant that its impact on the overall battlefield was negligible, much like the STG-44 or the jet fighter programs. The true defining element of infantry combat remained the MG42 and the standard Mauser rifle. The FG-42 was a weapon for heroes, a piece of engineering brilliance that was ultimately swallowed by the logistical realities of a losing war. Yet, its legacy is monumental. The FG42 represents the true conceptual peak of the effort to create a general-purpose infantry rifle, GPIR, a single weapon that does everything. While the STG-44 solved the cartridge problem with the intermediate round, the FG-42 solved the functional problem with its closed bolt/open bolt dual firing system and its compact, inline design. Its innovative features became a direct inspiration for post-war designs, particularly those seeking to create airborne or infantry support weapons. The American M60 general-purpose machine gun, developed in the 1950s, borrows the FG-42's straight-line stock, its unique gas operation principles, and its philosophy of being a lightweight, portable force multiplier. You see the influence of that revolutionary rifle in modern designs where engineers strive to put rifle power into a smaller, lighter package for special operations forces. The FG-42 was a technical masterpiece born from a specific tactical need, a high-water mark of German engineering in the face of inevitable collapse. It was a weapon demanded by Göring and built by genius, designed for an army of supermen that ultimately never existed in the required numbers. It remains a rare, beautiful, and profoundly complex artifact of the Second World War. A symbol of military ambition that outran technical and industrial capacity. The FG-42 was Hitler's paratrooper rifle, a weapon intended to create the perfect soldier, but one whose brief, brilliant service only serves to remind us that even the most innovative technology cannot compensate for the grinding, brutal reality of overwhelming numbers. The quest for the perfect weapon is often the quest for the impossible, a dream made of milled steel and shattered hopes.